have our INC radio podcast playing. We will have so much fun listening. INCRadio podcast, we're here to hear.
Hello, podcast family, and welcome to the ninth episode of our season, The Balance Blueprint Part 2. And you're tuning into INC Radio Podcast, the podcast that resonates with you. I'm your host, LJ.
And Angelica, and this episode is a continuation of our season, which focuses on topics that involve balancing your personal, social, and academic life, because balance is a practice that is essential to develop, especially at a young age.
That's right. And last episode, we dove into our life after our 9 to 5 shift. In that episode, we discussed about self care, the things we do to unwind after a long day, and things that inspire us to do things even after our shift of work. Today, we'll dive into the topic the balance between social connection and personal time. In any age or whatever point you are in your life, this is something we still continue to navigate and find meaningful things in.
But of course, we want our podcast family to join in on the conversation too. So let's segue to our podcast episode question for today. As always, for all of our live viewers, please feel free to leave your answer in the live chat. And for those who will be viewing our lovely episode after it is aired, please feel free to share with us your response to our question at podcast@incradio.net. So our podcast episode question for today is, has your need for socializing or alone time changed over the years?
Ayun. And now, before we head off to our main discussion, we'd like to also give our special thanks to Ka Angelo Eranio V. Manalo, our Deputy Executive Minister. And most of all, we would like to thank our dearest Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. We love you so much po. Ayan. So let's go over our topic discussion again. We're talking about, the balance between our social connection and our personal time. And for our first question of the day nga is, when was the last time you felt truly energized after spending time with others? And what made it feel that way? Ayan. At Angelica, ikaw.
I think a time when I felt truly energized would be after spending time with my family friends that I look up to. I think a lot of the times we sometimes spend time together, but just because we're together doesn't mean it's always quality time. If that makes sense, sometimes there's people in our lives, especially let's just say our family members, where we're always around them, but we're not always necessarily using that time to bond with one another. And I think I felt truly energized because I felt like just something as simple as eating together. But when everyone has their phones away and everyone's actually engaged in our conversation and catching up with each other, and everyone's genuine about engaging in conversations with one another, I think it helped us to really feel connected with each other. So those moments like that are when I feel truly energized around people. How
I
about you?
love, yeah, I love that you pointed out that, even though you're with your family members every day, right? Sometimes it's not in, I think something you call intentionally spending time together, right? That's different from just being around them every day and seeing them every day. But if you spend the time to have intentional quality time together, I feel like that's where you actually feel energized being around them, whether it's your friends, it's your family. And I feel the same way. Like tonight, before our show, we had family dinner together. It's been a month since we moved into our new home, so we kind of just took the time together to eat as a family. I mean, we usually eat together as a family anyway, but today was just kind of like we set an intentional purpose for
Right.
why we had family dinner together. And also it was our my siblings' last day of school here in Canada. It was this week is their last week of school before summer break started. So my dad was like, we'll have this dinner together as kind of like a way to celebrate. Oh, it's your last day of school. All of your hard work has paid off, and it's nice. It's also Friday here, so it's kind of like a good start to the weekend as well. Ayun.
And I think
But
there's so much meaning when you actually set aside time to spend with your loved ones, as opposed to just it being last minute, right? We're just more prepared for it. And it's something that we look forward to, spending time with our loved ones.
Exactly. And pretty much we'll taper on to our second question is how do you know when you actually need connection versus defaulting to alone time? Ayun. I feel like we have a lot of these moments in our life, right? Because there are times where actually sometimes I get bored when I'm just by myself. So usually the thing I do is I usually call friends or or call family. And the nice thing nowadays is that now that I live here at home and we have a bigger place, my grandparents come often to our house, so we actually have more quality time to spend with them. And as well, it's a nice way to just not be up in my room sitting here alone, probably doom scrolling or whatever. It's nice to have that connection. And also, again, like what we said in our other question, is that have that intentional time together. Ikaw, Ate Angelica.
I think it depends what I'm doing. Um,
Mm,
I think in general, when I need alone time is mainly when I'm doing work.
mm,
That's how I view it. So anytime that I'm off work, that's when I know that I need connection.
alone time. Oh, connection
Yeah,
time.
that's what I need because when I'm doing work, I feel like I'm always alone. And so
Mm,
the way I view it is work time is something that I should do by myself, of course, because it's my work. But then anything outside of that, I like to set aside time to connect with other people. Especially
mm,
now that I'm working, it's so quiet in the office.
yeah,
And I utilize that quiet to do my work. But when
yeah,
it's lunchtime and when it's my break time, I really like to prefer to have time throughout my day to actually socialize and talk
yeah,
to people because I think those are really important things to have like a really well-rounded everyday.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I feel like we're a little bit of the opposite because I talk a lot throughout the day. So I'm constantly interacting with like patients, being in the
Right.
healthcare setting. So I when I get home, that's usually my personal time. Like I like to set aside kind of a little bit of that time to just have my own time to kind of unwind, and then usually afterwards is when I'll have needing time to socialize and spending time with my family, calling friends, or going out to eat or whatever that may be. So, yeah. And I guess that kind of also goes down to our next question is, are there certain people or environments that drain you faster than others? And how do you manage those situations? So, like me, like what I said earlier, work can sometimes be something that drains me faster because I talk to so many patients. Sometimes you always have to be upbeat, right? And you just never know what's going on in a person's life, and that time in their life they might be having a hard time, and something like your own positive outlook in life, or like a positive conversation that you have with them, can be sometimes something that they might just need. And sometimes always being so upbeat drains me so much. Although I don't
Right.
mind, I'm usually a pretty upbeat person, but there can be times where it's a little bit more draining. So definitely that's why for me having more of like my own personal time after work is what really kind of energizes me instead of drains me. Kind of like the opposite for you at Angelica. So
I think when I'm thinking about this question, I don't think that there are necessarily certain people that drain me
mm-hmm,
faster than others. I think it's really all about their personality and how much energy I have.
mm-hmm,
That's really like it's not really about them. It's mainly about like my level of energy and how much social battery I have left over. But in
yeah,
terms of environments, I would say um we have very different work environments.
mm-hmm,
Type of work requires you to socialize a lot. And for me, I do talk throughout the day, but I think for me, I don't do as much talking as you, especially because you're interacting with patients. And for me, I work in the office. So my
yeah,
type of talking is just talking to other like coworkers or
yeah. Or it
meeting.
could be like in the morning, just like hi, good morning, and that's it. And then lunchtime, no it.
Um, so like I only really have a lot of socializing, I guess, throughout the day when I'm in a
Mm-hmm,
lot of meetings, but I do also have days when I'm not in meetings at all. And
mm-hmm.
because I'm the type of person who likes to talk to people,
Do you have that? I'm just kidding. I'm
I
just
like to engage in conversations. So a quiet environment actually drains me. When it's so quiet and I have no one to talk to, that
yeah.
but when it's too much, that also drains me as well.
Yeah. No, because sometimes when it's too quiet, it's deafening,
Yes,
right?
that's
Because
true.
there are
But if it's
times
too
even
much,
in our office as well,
uh,
when like on Mondays, there's only one dentist. So there's literally no one at the office. And our office is really big. So like you can I feel like the sound just echoes more. And I was like, and I always tell my dad, so like, this feels so odd because it's just you and I here. There's no one else here.
yeah, that's like an everyday situation for me, especially because after COVID, a lot of people who work in corporate, um, they're
Work
working.
from home as well, right? Too.
Yes, they're working hybrid. And so I guess what's good about my work is I have the flexibility to choose when I come in and when
Mm-hmm.
I stay at home. But then what's difficult is once you get to the office, you don't know who's there.
Mm.
You're walking in the, you know, in the office and it's like you don't know if there's actually someone sitting
Someone there.
at the desk. You don't know if someone's there. You just won't know. Um, so it's very quiet. So I think that for me there needs to be a balance of
Mm-hmm.
those types of environments.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of goes again to our next question, because all of these are pretty much connecting to each other's. How have your social needs changed over time? If so, how? Right. So like what we said, like Ate Angelica said, like be if the environment is too quiet, it's draining for her. Like with me, if it's too much stuff going on at work, it's draining for me. Like, we're totally complete opposite. I think now that I'm a little older, I've definitely found a lot better of a balance. Like before, when I was younger, all I wanted to do was always hang out with friends or always hang out with people, right? I always felt like there always needed to be a social interaction that I needed to have all the time. Because when I was young, I felt like I didn't like being alone. I felt like I was always bored. Like I always need
Right.
someone to keep me company. But I think now that I'm a little older, again, right now that we're working, there's a lot more kind of awareness of like, okay, this is the time where I actually feel overstimulated being with people or being in social settings, and I actually just need alone time, or like your own personal unwinding time, right? So I think for me, now that I'm a little older, I've found the right amount of balance of when I need to be when I need to have personal time and when I need social interactions. Ikaw.
I think a lot of it too, just to go back to what you were saying, is that when you're younger, you're not really in a position where you fully know yourself yet.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas as you're getting older, you're slowly building yourself and you're slowly getting to understand yourself a lot more. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we're younger, we have the tendency to want to be around a lot of people and we're more influenced by our peers.
Mm-hmm.
But as you grow older, you gain more independence. And so you become more comfortable, basically.
Yeah. And
Y-
you're more comfortable of like being alone, right?
Yes,
There you actually
exactly.
have stuff to do that,
Right.
that will actually, you find more meaningful time than, not saying that, not spending time with people isn't meaningful, but you set your own intentional time to have those meaningful conversations or connections with people. And, in our next question is like, how do you communicate your need for alone time without hurting other people's feelings? Like saying no to social activities and stuff like that. It got attention. Like how do you kind of communicate that to like your friends or your family that, hey, like I just kind of want, some personal time for myself.
I think that um if your friends and family truly care about you, of course, communicating to them something like that shouldn't really upset them.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of it as there's always a time and a place for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anything, you could always just reschedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's always that option. I feel like, especially now that for me and you, especially, like we're growing up, we're adulting, um, we are learning how to set boundaries, but
Mm-hmm.
we're also busy. So sometimes you really need that alone time. And I think that communicating that shouldn't hurt the relationship that you have with other people. And I think
Mm-hmm.
alone time is needed just as much as socializing time is needed. And so there's nothing wrong with rescheduling when you need time to
I
be back.
agree. I agree. And there's again, like what you said too, is like that shouldn't hurt their feelings. If you are busy and would need to kind of reschedule. And also, like you can always just say, like for us, like me and Angelica, or even at the Chloe, right? We're our friendship is kind of like long distance. So we're always busy and we never know what each other is, what we're doing in each of our lives, right? So usually sometimes I'll always just be like, oh, I'll message you later, like I'm kind of busy right now, right? You could just say something simple as that, just to kind of communicate that, you don't have to personally say that, oh, I'm having like personal time right now, like I can't talk. Just be like, hey, like I'm like busy doing something, I'll message you really quickly later on, right? It's just something that you just have to set your boundaries on.
Right.
And
I think
and
it's important,
yeah.
just to add to that, is that it's important to communicate with them instead of just leaving them, you know, hanging.
Unread.
Yeah. Don't just leave them on
Exactly.
red. If you have plans with other people and you need alone time, it's important to communicate so that way you make sure that you're taking care of your relationships with other people as well, at the same time as setting needed boundaries.
Exactly. And it's just about being intentional. And again, being aware of others' feelings as well is very important. But you can always just, as simple as a quick message of just like, hey, I'm really busy right now. Message you later, or I'm out right now. I'll chat with you later, right? It could be just as simple as that. And I think sometimes we overthink it a little bit, that we feel like we have to be connecting with everyone all at the same time. But really, it doesn't have to be like that. They also should understand that they're also busy and you're busy. You have your own personal time. But do you plan on downtime into your schedule, or does it happen more reactively? Like do you set an actual schedule for when you're gonna have personal time, social time, or is there like a day that you designate at Angelica?
Honestly, I do.
Mm.
Because I think that it's really important that you make time in your schedule. I think when we're busy, it's very difficult for us to set or to do that reactively, where you're
Mm-hmm.
just going with the flow. Okay, I'll, set aside time for this, whatever. Um, as opposed to actually planning it. So for me, I think it's important that I set aside downtime into my schedule. And for me, it's mainly like at least a couple hours in the day for myself, and also like specifically time for myself and for other people, just to make sure that I take care of my relationships just as much as I'm taking care of the tasks that I need to get done within the day.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes also, right, you just have to also look at your schedule throughout the week, or even that's
Right.
why having like a to-do list, or having that weekly list or that monthly list kind of helps to uh incorporate where you're going to put your downtime. Because sometimes people have due dates that they need to commit to, or they have plans that they need to commit to, and sometimes it's just harder to kind of going with the flow, like what you said. It's harder to intentionally set downtime when you're just kind of going with the flow, instead of actually looking ahead, and you can actually schedule, those downtimes that you might have, or for those social interactions that you might have. And for our next question is, what boundary you've set around your time or energy that you're proud of? Ayun. So I think for me, one of the boundaries that I've set is definitely at the end of the day. Since I've, again, after work, I would set a time for myself, right, to kind of unwind and rest. And then usually the rest of the time before I go to bed is the time where I interact with my family or my friends and stuff like that. But definitely one of the things that I've done before I go to bed is definitely get off social media.
Right.
I think is one of the things that I'm proud to say that I've done pretty well so far, is that I read before I go to bed instead of scrolling on my phone, or even just like watch a quick movie or a quick show just to kind of catch up on your shows, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
that might just be the quiet time that you need. Ikaw, Angelica.
I think for me, Um, my version of setting a boundary has to do with my laptop.
Mm,
Um, if you remember last year when I went to Canada, it was a really big deal that I didn't bring my laptop
yeah.
because I have these tendencies where, okay, like I have, free time, let me get this and this done. And I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in another country.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, let me get this and this done. And I'm at like the airport, or I'm supposed to be like focusing on something else. So being very mindful of where I bring my work and in
Mm-hmm.
situations I'm trying to get work done in, because for me, like not bringing my laptop was a really big deal.
Deal. Yeah.
Like I've never done anything like that before, but then that was like my way of really, really setting the boundary. I'm not bringing my work when I'm supposed to be resting or when I'm supposed to be going on vacation, and deleting certain apps too,
Mm-hmm.
really important for me. So that way, let's just say, like, if you need time for yourself, get off social media, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really important to take those certain actions to kind of create space between you and your work. So that way you can preserve your time and energy for the things that you need to make time for yourself and for your loved ones as well.
Exactly. Again, right? So setting that boundary, being intentional, right? When you're on vacation, you're on vacation. It sets that time for you to rest and reset. And I'm glad, I'm so proud of Ate Angelica because you know what? As much as she's really hardworking, but there are times where she really can't let go of work. And sometimes it's a good or it's a good and a bad thing. But I think now that she's older, since we've kind of been
I'm
friends
with
for
her.
the last few years now, I think you've got definitely 100% have gotten better with regards to keeping yourself, having a boundary of when to do work and when not to do work. So yeah, this summer, when we meet up, we're not
Oh,
doing any work.
yes, yes, for sure. There's no, actually, I don't know. I might need my laptop.
Yeah, but I
Or
know I know we're planning to
my
also
stuff.
make an episode of her podcast. So you guys might see us together in one screen instead of two different screens. Stay tuned. Just promoting.
That's coming up real soon.
Yeah, it's coming up real soon. Well, it's in the works, but we'll let you guys know. But for now, we're pretty much on our last two questions, and we'll kind of go through them quickly. But do you feel like the people in your life understand your social energy needs? Why or why not? Ayan, ikaw, Ate Angelica.
Honestly, I feel like no. Yes. No, I'm going to be 100% honest. I think it's because people know me to just be very social,
Mm-hmm.
talkative. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
person where when you see me, I'm kind of just like greeting everybody, talking to everybody. So then,
Social butterfly.
sort of, I don't think I'm that good at socializing though. But I think what it is that because people have that expectation of me, they don't understand when I'm just quiet. They automatically think that something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or like when I'm not saying much. Um, but the truth is I just have my moments when I feel like talking, and then moments
Not talking.
yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like no, not necessarily they understand. Just because sometimes people get confused. How about you?
Yeah. I totally agree on that because I'm sort of the same. When people think I'm quiet, it's like, am I mad or something? Or like, is there something wrong? I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong. I'm just tired. I just don't want to talk today. I just don't want to socialize. And I think it's gotten better throughout, the years. And now that I'm older, like people are able to differentiate where I kind of at when with regards to my social energy. So it's not as bad as it was before when I was younger. I would say I'm some type of a social butterfly. When people say hi to me and socialize to me, I'll definitely socialize back. But yeah, let's go to our last question because we still have a quick question value takeaway is what does recharging actually look like for you emotionally, mentally, physically? I think for me, recharging looks like for me is definitely having some quiet time and also exercising. Going for a run is also one of the things that I found that I really like to recharge my energy. Ikaw, Angelica.
I think for me it's sleeping,
Mm.
exercising, and going on little adventures. That's
Ayun.
the version of recharging.
Yeah, even like just finding like a cute small cafe, that I feel energized. But anyways, so that's pretty much our last question. But we're gonna head off to our Christian value takeaway for today is as Christians, maintaining balance for us is very important and it's not always easy to find the balance in things. And oftentimes we feel like we're pulled in so many different directions and finding balance between social connections and personal space is not about one over the other. And we're constantly reminded that we should make room for the important things in our life too, most especially making time for activities that help us grow in our faith. We are also encouraged that when we do have our personal time, we should have our personal prayers. Setting a time to have a personal prayer or devotional prayers creates that time to be able to call to our Almighty God. And these personal prayers should also serve a purpose to not only strengthen our faith, but also serve as a reminder that even in our time for solitude, we can always call on God.
As we wrap up today's episode, we'd like to give our thanks to you, our lovely viewers. Thank you for joining us in this episode today, and we hope to see you in our next episode so that we can all keep growing in our faith, one INCRadio podcast episode at a time. And as always, we would love to hear from all of you, so please reach out to us for any comments, questions, or suggestions via email at podcast@incradio.net. Because here on INCRadio Podcast,
We're here to hear. Thank you, everyone.
Let's open our devices and listen now. Let's have some fun, and this is how. As we have our INC radio podcast playing, we will have so much fun listening. INC Radio Podcast, we're here to hear. Let's open our devices and listen now. Let's have some fun, and this is how. As we have our INC radio podcast playing, we will have so much fun listening. INC Radio Podcast.